Grain filling. Yeah, I got a mess here. It helps a lot. There's so many variables and so many different products. It's kind of hard to know where to start. You know, for years and years, the only grain filler we had was the oil base. Now you could take Fama wood, which back then was all solvent, and it was an acetone base, and you could thin it and make one. Problem was, with the oil bases, they didn't take a stain. And if you used the Fama wood, it didn't take a stain very well either. Now this is this is an oil base. But you know, and it's a grain filler, it's a filler. And Balin and them have made grain fillers forever. And good product. 4-pack. This is also a Balin. It's a water base. Note the colors, names on both of them. They're both mahogany. What do you think? Crystal said, must be a different mahogany. That said, one of the things with the water base is they will typically take a stain. I'm not sure about the pink here, and it may just be, yeah. But, and I'm certainly not throwing these under the bus or putting them down. What's the advantage to an oil-based grain filler today? If you're using a water-based dye or stain or an alcohol over it, it doesn't move around too much. It's pretty solid. But I still have an issue putting a water base over it, a water-based stain over an oil base. So I'm just going to cut to the chase here and tell you that in today's world, I'm not much on the oil-based grain fillers. Now the biggest difference, I like the water bases. There's two that we predominantly use. One is right here, it's the Aqua Coat. And you can get it in a larger quantity. Now the Aqua Coat is simply put, it's a clear. It's on this bottom half right here. And it, like I said, and this is particularly effective and really nice if you're just doing a clear coat. Now one of the things with mahogany, walnut's the same, is that you've got these little, if you can look very carefully, can we get it on this really tight? You get these really fine little teeny pores. Walnut does the same thing. And inevitably, what a lot of times can happen, and you know, it's going to vary, you know, particularly today where you're seeing a lot of African mahogany, what will happen is when the finish hits it, it almost repels it. And one of the things with that is that you've heard me talk about, you know, finish doesn't like to turn a corner. So what you're doing, you're constantly fighting to get the grain filled with a finish. I'm hoping this will show up pretty well. I think it will. Get it good and wet here. All right. See if we can get this. If you look over here on our grain filled side, Let me see if I can get a, move it here and get a, yeah, you can see I got a little run going there just to get it wet. But if you look over here, it's hard to see on camera, but my texture of my finish is pretty smooth. When I get up here where I don't have it, you can see the texture, and you can see where it's just kind of pushing away a lot from those pores, even in the run. Hold on a minute, I'm gonna fix that run. There we go. Yeah, over the years I've got enough of them I learned to smack them out. Don't worry about it. Yeah. Anyway, but it's the same thing. I mean, you've got the pores. It's not that mahogany is such a deep pored wood. Now, again, I'm going to say it again, the African can be a little tenacious. And the same with walnut. Walnut kind of has that small, fine pore as well. Now, we did it a complete, we grain filled this whole piece. And it definitely makes a difference. And, you know, I mean, it just cures a lot of issues. Now, I left these two little knots here, and you're going to see those in the filling segment. But I left them because I wanted to make sure that you understand a grain filler is not for something that large, not the aqua coat. Now, I also understand that there's a company called Crystal-Like, and I think McFeely sells it. You know, they're the square drive screw folks, and my understanding is it's very good. I've not tried it, but I have tried the aqua coat and I like it. Now comes the others. I'm going to thin it to about the consistency of mayonnaise. You don't want it real thick. Now this is just a Bondo spreader, just a plastic squeegee. You know, you can pick up a plastic putty knife, kind of do the same thing. And kind of my method is just take it thinned and just squeeze it on, pushing it in. I do basically the same thing with the aqua coat. Now here's a quick trick. This is a wet sanding sponge. Damp. Don't wipe off too much. And the same thing when you get into the, now that's real important when you get into the aqua coat. Aqua coat dries, aqua coat will take a stain and it dries a little tougher than just the fillers. But it sands harder, but it does sand well. Now let's take a look. All right, now this is a case where we're actually taking the walnut and we're using it to enhance the grain. Do the same thing on a mahogany, you know. If you want to bring up the pores and whatever in it a little bit, enhance it, and that's something very often done. You know, you can just use a little darker or whatever. Now, if you were doing, see, it's just going to lay just in the grain. This is one. This is the red oak with the red oak filler over it. Now, I told you, and this is the good fella. I told you I was impressed with the colors. Get in on that pretty close. You can't even see the filler. I can't right here. It matches right on. Pretty nice, pretty impressive. This is new. The good filla's new. I don't think it takes, I don't think it's even gotten into the mainstream, and it takes a while. It's www.goodfilla.com. It's nice. I like it. I'm not putting Timbermate down. But I want to show you something else. All right, here we're going to take a look at the grain filler. Oops, using the stain. Okay, down through here, I've got the aqua coat. It's clear. You're also probably going to find this interesting. You know, it ain't no joke. I'm not a big Minwax fan. But Minwax has absolutely, well, they've got the entire color market. I mean, colors are Minwax. And you hear me tell you, says, you know, you can't, whatever they call that stain, don't necessarily mean that's what it is. The amazing part about this is Minwax Golden Oak. Golden Oak stain on red oak is probably it's the number one wood, and it's the number one stain on that wood. It's actually not a stain, it's a dye. And the way we know that is there's no goop in the bottom and it's coloring the stick. This ain't got nothing to do with grain fill. Another, we're going to do a little thing. By the way, in that golden oak thing, there's a segment out here called asphaltum or asphaltum, whatever you want to call it. Make sure you check that out. Right on the money. Took that stain, no problem. This is Mohawk's water base golden oak. It's also taken it very well. There's just a slight difference in color. Yeah. All right, let me get back over here real quick. Let's go to the good filler down here where I haven't got any finish on it. I'm going to show you just in a minute. I picked this golden oak and this walnut filler for a reason. That makes a right nice looking piece of oak. I hear people and you watch this series, you'll understand. I hear people squeal, man, you never put a stain on walnut. Want to bet? In a walnut, you want a gold honey tone. Now, I'm not going to tell you this golden oak is my preference because it's not. But I'm going to tell you something. If you don't have, and we'll do a segment on coloring walnut, if you don't have one of the other dyes, it sure makes walnut rich and nice looking. It really, really does. The other thing with the grain fillers, both of these, the Aqua Coat and the Good Filler and the Timbermate, is that they're all compatible with pretty much any known finish. Now I'm going to reiterate this again. You know, you can put an oil over a water, meaning we can put an oil-based stain over a water-based grain filler. It's the other way around, putting water-based finish over an oil-based grain filler. If you're going to do that, once you've got all your coloring done, I'd have to hit it with a little coat of shellac just to make sure everything's burned in there and everything's, you know, cooked together. That's just, and I just said it, cooked together. What happens is when you've got when you put a stain or a dye, it's very thin. And if you've got a water base, when you put a shellac on it, the alcohol and whatever, it'll actually kind of penetrate through and kind of help lock it in underneath. Because you can't really put a shellac over the grain filler unless you're going natural without creating an issue, because then it's not going to want to take your stain. One last thing. The Good Filler, as well as Timbermate, and of course the Aqua Coat comes clear. But you can take, and in the case of the Balin, where I'm a little pink than what I want, I can take a little trans tint I can fix it right up. I can tint it to whatever I want. I'm just getting a little bit here on top, and I don't know how well you can tell, but it's darkening a fair amount. I mean, it would take, you know, a little bit of work. But you can take this trans tint and tint any of this. Add a color to it. Now I'm going to give you a little hint too. You know, if you're going for something like the walnut or whatever like that, you can take a clear and you can add a little bit of you can add pretty much any tint to it. You know, water base, they call them Japan colors or whatever the case, as long as it's water base. I prefer the trans tint just because it's compatible and it's a metal complex dye, which means it's not going to fade out or anything like that. So that's pretty much grain fillers. When we finish the Bombay, you're going to see it, and there'll be a segment where we're finishing a big Bombay mahogany chest, and in that it will have been grain filled, and you're going to see a little, and we'll talk a little bit more about it in an actual practical application. But that's the basis of it. Now, cut to the chase. My choice. Well, I really like the Aqua Coat really well for a grain filler. And I don't mind tinting it. But if I want to tint it something or whatever, I don't want to mess with any of that, I like either the trans tint or the Good Filler. And like I told you, I like the colors on the Good Filler better than the trans tint. Simple as that.